Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ellis, and today I'm back for the opposition view for Everton's game against Burnley at Goodison Park on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup fourth round. I'm joined by Joe from Turfcast. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good mate.
Good, good. So Burnley have had a tough start to the season, as we know, sat 19th and really struggling at the moment. What are your thoughts on the season so far?
Yeah, it's not what we expected. A lot of us, thought we were so good last season, and it's going to be an interesting debate with the Everton fans. But like we went from a certain style of play to this new style of play, and it worked so quickly. Um, I didn't expect us to win the league at all last season. I didn't expect us to win it so comfortably. A lot of my predictions were we'll start the season slow because we're getting used to this, and then we'll kick on and might scrape into the playoffs, that sort of thing. We did start slowly, but that were only for around 8 games, and then we just clicked and we went on an absolute bullet train through the championship, destroying anything that came anywhere near us. So because of that, I expected us to do quite well this season. I thought we'd be in and around the battle, but then pull away. I think I was on the overlap earlier in the season, and I said I think I predicted us to finish like 14th. I will rein that in a little bit now. If I'm honest with you, we've had a slow start. It's not been good. Vincent Company, man, I love him. He's obviously a very good manager, or will be a very good manager, but he's still inexperienced, and I think he got away with it last season. Whereas he's not this season. It's same with the players. Vincent's making mistakes. The players are making mistakes. Like Vincent's been a little bit stubborn. He's putting square pegs in round holes and trying things that worked last season that aren't working this season because we don't have the same personnel. But I think the main issue has been we've just ripped out the heart and soul of last season's team. Like there's so many players that aren't there anymore. Granted, some of them were loans, so we had no choice. Some of them were through injury as well. So again, we have no choice. But there's certain players that are sitting on the bench that did so well last season that are probably thinking, why have I not been given the chance of playing the Premier League? And I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, there's been a few mistakes. Whether it's just blind faith or not, I'm not sure. But I'm still thinking that we do click eventually, like we did last season, and then hopefully pull away from it. But up until the weekend, I've still been pretty confident saying, we'll stay up, we'll stay up. But after watching us diabolical performance against Bournemouth on the weekend, I'm now like, I'll sit on the fence a little bit. Maybe not be so confident. But yeah, we need to turn a corner. We need to turn a corner quickly.
That is some change from the 100 plus points that you got last year, and I
Yeah,
imagine
it's
that
mad,
was a
isn't it?
dream. Yeah, that must have been a complete dream to see that, to go down and just absolutely batter everyone in front of you, like you said.
Yeah,
But you come up and you face the realities of the Premier League, and then I agree. I think there seemed to be too many signings, really, and you had that good core already, and a lot of the most successful teams that come up actually come up and retain the core and bring in a few extra around it. It seemed like perhaps they tried to transform too much too soon.
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it as well is like in the summer. Another reason why we're also confident is because we did so well last season, and then we spent 100 million quid, and that's just not something Burnley do.
Not at all,
Daesh
no.
will tell you like not or Daesh will tell you like the most we used to spend on players were like at best. I think one transfer window we literally brought in Danny Drinkwater on loan. That were it. So some transfer windows we go by and we spend nothing. So then we go and spend 100 million quid, and you bring in the Belgian Pro League Player of the Year last year, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, we are going to be so good. But he's been non-existent. We've brought in a lot of wingers. There's a lot of forward players. There's not really much balance there. We've got a gaping hole at left back because we didn't sign Ian Martson. We're missing Nathan Teller. He offered us an outlet with his pace. He was fantastic. I don't know why we didn't just go and get him. As much as he didn't play last season, didn't play too much last season. I played about 50% of the games to be fair, and probably won't play all this season. I think we're missing someone like Ashley Barnes as well. His leadership off the pitch. I feel like there's nobody there to grab the dressing room, people in the dressing room, just say, right, come on, this is shite. You need to get better than this. You need to do better than this. I feel like we're just missing that. But yeah, the transfer window looking back is probably not a good one. I do think Trezor will come good if we're still in the league because he won't stay for the championship. But a lot of it's been potential. We've spent a lot of money on potential. James Trafford being the perfect example, rising to 19 million quid eventually. I don't know what the contract data is for that. But it's eventually going to rise to 19 million quid. And he probably will eventually, because he's only a kid, he will eventually be the England goalkeeper. He probably will eventually play for one of the top teams in this country. But right now, in the Burnley team, he's not good enough. And we have a perfectly good goalkeeper in Ari Netmioric, who was fantastic last season, who sat on the bench. He's another one that, like I was saying earlier, a player sat on the bench. And he must be thinking, I need to play. Like, what have I done to deserve to be dropped? And there's been too much of that. But yeah, frustrating start, definitely.
Yeah, it seems it, mate. It certainly seems it. And of course, that Bournemouth game, I imagine that was one that you'd really built up as one where you can go and win. And to see a performance like that must be so disappointing. I think like you said about the team being young, I think that's a real problem, isn't it? You come into the Premier League and you need some experience. Yes, it's great. You're buying potential. I'm sure it's a great business model for the owners as well. In a few years, you'll make profit on a lot of these players, but you'll also make money if you stay in the Premier League. And I think you need a bit of experience to do that. But that Bournemouth game, it sparked a lot of debate amongst Burnley fans, I think. I saw a few Burnley fans actually calling for Vincent Kompany's head. So what do you
Yeah,
think after that? How bad was it?
yeah, it were bad, but these people calling for companies that are idiots. Let's no ways about it.
Right.
Complete idiots. There's very few of them, but there's a couple of them. I will admit that. But again, I'm not sure if they genuinely believe that or they're just saying it for a reaction. I'd say it's the former, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's the last two games, mate, as well. Because Brentford, I know they're a decent side, and they've got some good players. But you know they're missing Tony. They were missing Ben Mee. They were missing a couple of other players, and they absolutely battered us. They battered us 3-0, so comfortable as well. Like, I remember watching you go down there as well, and you just strangled the life out of them
Yeah.
and just did a very professional performance. So they are beatable, and they'd won one game all season up until that. All right, since then they've beaten us and beaten Chelsea, so they've come away, and now everyone's like, "Oh, what are you whinging for? It's Brentford." But at the time, they had quite a few injuries, and I went down to that one. And I wish I didn't, because they absolutely battered us, mate. 4 hours there, 4 hours back. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I
Really?
doing this? Week after we're Bournemouth, so like, yeah, definitely not doing that. But yeah, then you go into the Bournemouth one and you're thinking, all right, fair enough. We've given the benefit of doubt because they got dicked against Chelsea. You know, you're like, oh, it's Chelsea though. You know, spanked against Tottenham, oh, it's Tottenham. Beaten against United, oh, it's United. And we kept hiding behind these teams and saying like, yes, the United and Chelsea may have not been as good this season as they have previous seasons, but they're still a good side. And the same with Villa, but obviously they'd had a good start. So we just kept hiding behind the opposition and saying, the good opposition, let's judge them when we play these lesser teams. Then we played Brentford and Bournemouth, and we got beaten in both of them, and deservedly got beaten in both of them as well. So yeah, it's the two games where we bigged up and said we need to get something out of these, maybe one win at the very, very minimum, and we haven't had anything. So yeah, it's frustrating. But, you know, we're only 10 games in, so there's 28 games to go. But the problem with the Premier League is time runs out fast. And the year we went down under Dash is because we got off to a slow start. We got, who did we get beat by our first game of the season? I think it was Brighton at home, who weren't that good then. I know everyone's raving about them now, but they weren't that good then. And it just got off to a slow start. We didn't get his first win till, I think, similar, like October. And then I remember playing Newcastle in December, and we only had one win. They didn't have a win at that point, and they beat us. And I remember thinking, this could be the year, and obviously eventually it was. And there's kind of scenarios like that happening now because the pressure builds up. Like, it's all well and good to say there's 28 games left, but you know we've lost 10 games and now the pressure's on the players, so you're more likely to make a mistake. Like James Tarkowski, I'm sure you guys love him. We loved him, but he made so many mistakes in that year we went down because of that, because of the pressure. Same with Ben Mee, and I think the pressure will more likely get to these players than it will your likes of Ben Mee and Tarka, who did struggle with it in that year. So yeah, frustrating, and we need to turn the corner and turn it quickly.
So the league, you're in the league form, you're not really on the back foot now, like you're saying, you have got a lot of points to make up, but we're now into a cup game, aren't we, on Wednesday? So a bit of a distraction, I suppose, maybe a good distraction, maybe not. But for Everton personally, we can say that the cup means a hell of a lot to us. Having not won a trophy
Yeah.
since 1995, it really does mean a lot to have some sort of run. And I think it's massive for morale as well, just to be in that cup and know that there's something else on the horizon, something to look forward to, something to give the fans something to dream about. So the cup's quite important to us, and we're looking at it as a game that we need to win, and we need to stay in the cup to keep this positive momentum that we're on at the minute. But looking at you guys, how important is the cup for you guys? Because we've said about how much pressure you're under in the league. Is this an unwelcome distraction, or is it a game that you are looking at as you really want to win?
Me personally, I'm looking at it because I want to win it. Like, yeah, we've got injuries and stuff and things like that. But I think one of the main reasons as well we've got off to a slow start as well are the stuff I've already mentioned. But another one is I think Vincent doesn't know his best team yet, so this another game is good for this. Another game is good for that issue. He can look at more players, try more square pegs in round holes like he has been doing. Maybe put some round pegs in round holes this time, and that might be a light bulb moment in his head. Similar like he did with Charlie Taylor at left back. But yeah, it's good, and I'm looking forward. I've got tickets as well. Like, it's probably the last time I'll go to a night game at Goodison.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to a night game at Goodison before, actually, if I'm being honest with you. I've been plenty of times, but I don't think I've been to a night game. So it probably is the last time I'll go to a night game, unless the fixture later in the season gets moved. But me personally, it's a good distraction. I like it. I remember the year we got to the semi-finals. It's probably one of my favourite ever seasons, apart from last season. I think my favourite 2 seasons are last season and 2009, which is weird considering we achieved a lot more under Dyche. But it was just the style of football. Not there's anything wrong with Dyche football, and I've always stood by that. But when you do it in a better way, it is a bit more entertaining. And last season as well, like the way we went up and how we went up, winning the league where we won the league. Brilliant. And obviously the League Cup semi-finals back in 2009 and then winning the playoffs at Wembley. Fantastic. But yeah, I have a lot of good memories of the League Cup. 2009 being one of them. I'd love to see, like, obviously you say you guys haven't won anything since 1995. We've genuinely never won anything in my lifetime. And the only way that I ever will get to see Burnley win something, because obviously not going to win the league. I mean, you'll be in the same position now, I suppose, is obviously if they win a cup competition. But so many big clubs now take the cup competition seriously. It's difficult for yourselves. It's even more difficult for us. But teams have done it. Swansea have won it in our lifetime as well. I think Bradford City got to the final that year. Portsmouth have won the FA Cup. Cardiff got to the final. So Millwall got to the final. So yeah, that's the last thing that I want to see Burnley do now, because I've seen us do everything else. And to say that I'm 35, I know I don't look it for you. It's the lighting, mate. I do look it off camera. Is win a cup competition, because I've seen us win at Anfield, I've seen us win at Arsenal, Old Trafford, and when I started supporting Burnley, we were in Division 4. So all of that is fantastic. But I'd love to just go to that next level and see us win a trophy. But it probably won't be this season.
I think that's what a lot of supporters of clubs who aren't that top 6 are looking for. Just something to cling on to, a cup run like that. We'd absolutely love that. That'd be the dream for me. I've never seen us win a trophy either. And, I was minus 7 years old and we won a trophy. But yeah, it's like, it's disappointing not to have one. And we've not had a cup run for a while either. We've had plenty of times at Wembley in my time, but never quite got over the line. So this would be brilliant for us. And looking at Everton now, we've done really well away from home recently. I'm sure you've seen the results that we've been picking up. We beat West Ham at the weekend, beat Brentford, we beat Villa in the cup to get to this game, and we have done really well on the road. And at home the form has been shocking really overall. The most recent game at home, we did beat Bournemouth 3-0, and that was the kind of performance we've been looking for at home all season. I'd say that a lot of the time, the effort's been there, the application's been there, but the finishing hasn't been there. The Fulham game earlier on in the season, the Wolves game, both of those, we absolutely battered the opponent and just couldn't put the ball in the net. Now, though, we have fit and firing strikers. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's back. Beto's now signed as well. So I believe now we do have players who can put the ball in the net. And I look at this game as an absolute must-win for us. I can see probably a few changes. I imagine Beto might come in for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, hoping to see Danjuma as well. And I imagine they may rotate one of the midfielders for Idrissa Gana Gueye. But Everton are taking this seriously, make no mistake, and we'll be going out there to try and win this game. But what do you think of Everton so far, and what do you make of the prospect ahead on Wednesday?
Well, I'm looking forward to obviously seeing Dyche again, in a way, because when he was the Burnley manager, he always did well against teams that we play now. Like Bournemouth is a perfect example. You've just tanked them, as you said. He used to always tank Bournemouth as Burnley manager. Same with Brighton as well. Like he'd always tank them because his style sets up brilliantly against a team that wants to have possession or wants to run at them, because he'll just block them off and then counter attack or just bully you on set pieces. So I'm fully expecting you to do that. But it's interesting there that you're saying that you're taking it seriously. There's no doubt about it, because there was a running joke in Burnley when Dyche was there. He never took the cup seriously. He never, ever, ever took it seriously. We lost against Accrington Stanley, Port Vale, Burton, obviously the famous one in the FA Cup fifth round, Lincoln City were in the conference at the time, or the National League, whatever it's called these days. So it's just typical of our luck to, not have Dyche anymore, and then to knock us out of the cup after him overseeing all these games where, he got us knocked out of the cup as the Burnley manager. But just going back to your point about Everton as well. So I think you're a bit of a weird side at the minute. I think a couple of injuries and you're in the mire, but your players that you have are more than capable of your aim, which will be probably 15, something like that. If you have a full season of DCL and a full season of, is it Jared Braithwaite at the back?
Branthwaite, yeah.
Branthwaite, yeah, you'll be completely fine. But if DCL gets another injury, which I think he probably will, he's made of glass, and Branthwaite gets an injury, because he's brilliant. Like, to see such a young kid as well, I've enjoyed watching him. Him and Tarky will be a very, very, very good centre-back pairing. But if you get an injury to him, and then Dyche brings Keane in, and then you've got, I'm not seeing much of Beto yet, to be fair. He might be a world beater. I don't know much about him. But then you've got, not Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. I think that's why you had such a slow start, because I remember seeing some stats. Your XG was very high, but you're one of the lowest scorers in the league because you didn't have Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And that worries me slightly about you. If you have another injury to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, say he's out for another 3-4 months, I think you might get dragged back into it. But I think ultimately you'll be fine, and you'll pull away. But it's interesting to see how you will be as the season goes on. But it'll be a typical Dyche team. You won't concede many, but you need your main striker with DCL. Whereas us for years it was Chris Wood. But yeah, for you it's going to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he's obviously better than Chris Wood. So yeah, if you have a full season without many injuries to DCL and your centre backs, you'll be more than okay.
I bet it's funny for you to see this new Everton team, because there are just sprinkles of Burnley in it with Sean Dyche, James Tarkowski,
exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Like you're playing in the low block. You've got your big striker up front. You're creating. You've got the low block, as I said, and it's interesting as well, because I watched a video the other week of your new stadium, and they were showing like the outside shots. So like, to talk us through the new stadium, we've got Sean Dyche, James Tarkowski, and Dwight McNeil. Like, fucking hell, I might as well just be watching a Burnley video from 3 years ago. But it's interesting as well. Like, I know football fans are fickle. We're fickle. But I remember when we played you not that long ago, and James Tarkowski absolutely clattered Rich Arlison with a brilliant tackle, I add. A perfectly timed tackle.
We hated
the comments on the Everton. Yeah, the comments from the Everton fans were like, absolute yard dogs, disgrace. Get him out of the league. Now you're all loving it when Tarky's doing these big challenges. It's funny, but yeah, honestly, you are basically us from 3 years ago, but with a better striker and with more exciting prospects in the likes of Branthwaite, and obviously a bigger club with higher aspirations and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to see how you get on over the next few years with the stadium, whether or not you'll be able to still spend money, because I know some teams when they spend big on stadiums, Arsenal for a few years, they ended up going backwards. So we'll see. But yeah. It's interesting to see how Everton's set up now, because you are basically us from 3 years ago, but like I said, with some better players.
It'll be interesting to see whether he has a ceiling or not, Sean Dyche, because we've seen him do so well at Burnley and just keep you stabilised for so many years. Of course, he got that 7th place finish that year, which was incredible. But it'd be interesting to see, with obviously a bigger club, no disrespect, but a bigger club, more expectation, and probably better players, maybe eventually more egos if the team gets better.
Yeah.
Could it then work? Do you think Dyche has a ceiling or not?
Yeah, I do. I think that's the problem with Sean. I think he does have a ceiling. I'd say, for example, if you get past this, always aiming just to finish 17th. Well, that's not your aim, but as the season goes on, that the last few years, that has turned into your aim.
Yeah.
Once you get past that and he stabilizes you, like when we got to that stabilization, we were like, oh, that's fine. That's where we want to be. We're happy with that. Obviously, we did end up pushing on a little bit further, but there was no pressure for Sean to do that. We didn't demand finishing Europa League. It just happened one year. We're like, oh, sick. I'm going to Olympiacos to watch Burnley.
Yeah.
Whereas with you guys, I think if he stabilizes you, and I think given the right tools, he will do. Whether he gets the right tools or not, that's a different debate. If given the right tools, he will do. But I think after that, the expectation from your fan base will be, right, let's kick on. And whether he does kick on or not, sometimes He didn't do it. Obviously, that 1 year he did, but then after that, he were always backwards. So we'll see. And then obviously after that, if he is given the tools to bring in bigger egos, I'm not sure he can handle them. Like I'm not sure. Sometimes a lot of people will say, "Like, what are you on about? He rules with an iron fist." And yeah, he does, and that's his way. But I know Everton are never going to sign Paul Pogba. But could you imagine somebody with that attitude coming into Everton and Sean Dyche being like,
He
"Tuck your
wouldn't have
shirt
it.
in, mate."
He would not have
wouldn't
it.
have it.
No way.
There was a lot of rumours, and I will first of all say that this is just a rumour. And Sean, if you do watch the Toffee Blues podcast, please do not sue me.
Hope he
But there's
does.
some rumours when there's some rumours when Maxwell Cornet came in that he kept rocking up in this Lamborghini. And obviously everyone else in Burnley training ground were just like, your standard Range Rovers. He's rocking up in this bright, I don't know what colour it was, to be honest. I think it was bright red or something like that. This big, bright Lamborghini. And apparently Sean went having it. And he told him to not bring it in. He said, do not bring that Lamborghini training tomorrow. It's too flashy. It's not what we're about at this football club. And he kept coming in and he kept coming in. And apparently they had a massive bust up, him and Dyche that year. That's the year we went down. Just rumours. I'm not sure. But that's what I mean. I'm not sure he can handle them attitudes if you go down that route. But if you're giving Dyche the tools, Dyche will obviously look at the type of players that he wants. But then again, can these type of players then get you to the next level with the expectation? Because, like I said, when we were stable, that was enough for us, but I don't think it'd be enough for Everton.
No, I
You'd
think
want to push on.
Yeah, the expectations are too high, aren't they? And I hope it doesn't get to a point where he bans Lamborghinis and we can't have top players anymore. That would not be ideal, would it? But there are a few Blues who are thinking that, like, is it going to get to a point where we want to push on? But we can't be thinking about that yet because we've got to just hope for stability at some point. So, I think we can't be greedy yet as Evertonians. We need to be in a place of stability, especially with the new stadium that you mentioned. We need to get to a point where we aren't in a relegation battle every year before we can even think about pushing to the next step. But looking at this game again, individually, where do you think Everton are going to break you guys down? Because Bournemouth came to good as
everywhere.
They were completely naive. They were just so naive. They played out from the back, which is something you guys like to do. And we hit them with the high press and we absolutely ruined them with our urgency. And I think it could be a similar game if Company is naive with that. But where can you see Everton cutting through you guys? And we find it hard to break down teams. So are we going to find it hard?
No. Simply because it depends who you play. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays, then yeah, it's good night. If you create the chance of you be creating in the league earlier in the season with Dominic Calvert-Lewin in there, he'll get some joy against our defence. It's interesting though because yes, this is what I mentioned earlier. Dyche does well against teams like ours, and I alluded to Bournemouth and the Brentford games when he was the Burnley manager, and that's exactly how we absolutely Brentford as well. The year we went down, we beat them 4-0 at home. The year we went down because we pressed them high, rushed them. They tried to play out from the back. We won the ball high up. Quick turnover, bish bash bosh in the back of the net. That's exactly what we will try and do tomorrow at your place. We will try and have possession football. We'll try and play it out from the back. We'll try and get it to the wingers. We'll then try and feed it into the striker. However, recently, the reason why we have been so poor at playing out from the back, in my opinion, is the goalkeeper, which is James Trafford, because we brought him in, like I said, for potential. Will probably be a very good goalkeeper when he's older, but right now he doesn't suit us. Arianet Muric suits us better than what James Trafford does. And tomorrow, because obviously we're recording this on Tuesday, apologies for anybody listening to this on Wednesday, but on the match, we will play this week. It will be Muric because he's like the new cup keeper. He should be the league keeper, but he will. So it'll be interesting. We might be able to beat that press with a better passing goalkeeper. So it's going to be interesting. However, we would like to have Bayer there because he's probably the best defensive player that we've got with the ball. And he's currently injured. Al Dakil will probably have to play, and he's not been great this season. Connor Roberts will be back, but he's not had a great start. So it's interesting. I think the main thing is the goalkeeper. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we do trying to beat your press and trying to beat the lines with the new goalkeeper in. But it's interesting, yeah. I'm fully aware that Dyche has a game plan against teams like ours. And I did say when Company came in, even last season, like, if we ever play Dyche again, because this is before he went to you, he'd love playing against his team. And obviously we're in that position now, but it depends what team you put out as well. If Branthwaite's not there, we might have some joy. If Tarky's not there, we might have some joy. But it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He will have a lot of joy against us if he plays there. But obviously, even then, you've got Beto, and is he any good at set pieces? I don't know, because obviously Everton will be decent at set pieces, and we are quite poor at them this season so far. So yeah, interesting, but it depends on the teams that both sides put out, I think.
Well, I expect to see Beto start really ahead of Dom, and
Mm,
Beto is an aerial presence. He actually had better aerial stats than Dom last season, which is quite good. And obviously, Dom's was a smaller sample size, but he has got good numbers in the air, and he's one of those strikers who's just very awkward, but very like
yeah,
hardworking. And I imagine he could just get a goal out of absolutely nothing, and he will chase lost causes. So I think he will give your defense a tough time. But the likes of James Tarkowski, Jared Branthwaite, they may be given a rest. I think there'll probably be some rotation, but then even the fact that we can bring in Arnaut Danjuma, who hasn't started, like
yeah.
he's a threat in himself. So I still feel like we'll have enough just to get over the line against you guys, and a quarterfinal would be absolutely massive for us. But let's go on to some predictions and call it how we think it'll be. I'll start with you. What do you think's going to happen?
Like I said, it's difficult to gauge because I haven't seen the teams, but I'm just going to go off. If I think Daesh has always said in interviews, even when he first started at Burnley, he plays stuff down in interviews, but I know he will want to win this. He will want to prove a point to our chairman for sacking him and prove a point to the fans because we now, not that anybody dislikes Sean because we all still love him and thankful for him, but because we all now love this new manager and this new style of play. So I think he'll want to prove a point that, Daesh is still king and his way will play. So I think, yes, I think DCL will probably get rested because he's so injury prone and sitting with Bradford because of how important he is. But I do think Daesh will go quite strong. And because of that, I think you'll win the match, and I think you'll probably win 2-0, something like that. I think you'll have some joy against us on set pieces and with the high press. But I'm hoping with the introduction of Muric, then that will help us beat the Lions. And if it does, Vincent, I'm not sure if you watch the Toffee Blues in your spare time, you might do. But if it does, please start him against Palace on Saturday in the league. He needs to be the league goalkeeper. But I think Everton will win this one, unfortunately.
I think Vincent's listening. That's a given, really, isn't it? All the Premier League managers
Yeah.
listen to us here. So maybe Vincent is listening. If you are, Vincent, please do play a weak team. And Muric could be the key. This is a really interesting point that you've made here, that you'd actually rather have your cup keeper. So it'd be one to look out for Blues, actually. But I think I'm going to go with 2-0. So Muric won't be keeping any clean sheets, but should be an interesting game for sure. But before I go, one final question for you, mate. Okay, so 3 people, footballers, celebrities, whatever you want, who you'd want to go for a meal with, who would it be and why?
Well, you said whatever I want. So not to go all miserable and boring, but it'd have to be my mum and my grandma because they both passed about 6 years ago. And then just one celebrity, it'd probably have to be Messi, just because he is the greatest of all time in my eyes. And I think it's been proved this last year. And I'd love to just sit down and chat to him and just get to know him because I reckon he's like a really, really like interesting character as well. And because obviously to have that level of ability, you need to have a certain level of determination. And I think to have such a high level of determination, you've got to, I'd love to pick these types of people's brains. It'd be the same with Ronaldo as well, like to find out what makes them tick. So yeah, my mum, my grandma, and Lionel Messi, which would be the most random table in the world.
That'd be quite would they all get on, do you think? Do you think it'd be a good
Probably,
night?
yeah. I mean, my grandma would probably mention, the Falklands or something like that and wind him up because, she's from that generation. But other than that, I'm sure it'd be fine.
It's perfect timing as well. Lionel Messi's just won his 8th Ballon d'Or last night. And
Exactly.
it's great timing. You can ask him all about that. And I agree. Like he's an enigma, isn't he? People don't know a lot about
Yeah,
Lionel Messi, the person. So I think he'd
exactly.
be
Yeah.
even more interesting than Ronaldo because we don't actually know what he's like.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to pick his brains, find out what makes him tick, learn more about his childhood and stuff. Because, like you said, there's not much out there about him. Whereas Ronaldo's all that, look at me, this is my life and stuff. Whereas Messi's a little bit, like you said, peeled back. You need to peel back to find him. Whereas Ronaldo, it's all already out there. But yeah, I'd love to be able to just you know what? I'd love to just be able to watch him play because I've never seen him play live. I've seen Ronaldo play live against Burnley, where he was actually man-marked out of the game by Eric Peters, funnily enough.
There you go.
And once at the Nations League semi-finals a few years back where he scored a hat-trick against Switzerland. So that was good. But I'd love to see Messi play, but I don't think I'll get a chance now because obviously he's out in America and it's too far. I'm not going that far to watch a match.
Who'd have thought? Talking about Everton and Burnley and Lionel Messi comes into the conversation. It's just
Yeah.
the same level, isn't it? Exactly.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But that is all from the Opposition View this week. We do hope you've enjoyed. Thanks so much for coming on, Joe.
No, thanks for having me, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, pal. But that is all for now. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed. Drop us a comment. Let us know. Are we going to win this? Are we getting into the hat for the quarterfinals? Hopefully we are. But that's it for now. See you in a bit.